is 6:30 p.m. on Monday, November 25th, 2024, and I call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Oscoda Township Board of Trustees to order. May we all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. I just want to welcome everybody. It's good to see some faces here, and everybody that's watching at home, hello. Ms. Tate, can we start with roll call?
Yep. Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. McGuire? Here. Mr. Gear?
Present.
Ms. Fortner?
Here.
Ms. Tate? Here. Mr. Linderman?
Present.
Mr. Maxwell?
Here, we have a quorum. Okay, I have one quick thing to say. There was a public hearing that was scheduled for the blight ordinance by the previous administration for this evening. Just so everybody is aware, that public hearing will not be taking place tonight. There will be something I'll be talking about in just a second, and I'll address that in more detail later. For the next portion, for the agenda additions, I would like to say there are a few agenda additions tonight, and this is part of the portion that I just mentioned. So the first thing is, under the subcommittee reports and project updates, under number 3, can we add a supervisor's update? And then for number 4, Mr. Cummings has an update from the most recent RAB meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then on the portion under new business, number 21, can we add schedule a work session for the budget, hopefully next week? Needs to be an action item. And then, Ms. McGuire, you had another thing to add to the finance portion.
Yes. I need to add a check run that is scheduled for tomorrow on the consent agenda.
And that will be considered monthly expenditures, and the total for that is going to be $11,365.39.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any additional additions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept the agenda with additions?
So moved, Linderman.
Support, McGuire.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Linderman and support by Ms. McGuire. Ms. Tate, may we have roll call, please?
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Gear?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, next is our first of 2 public comments. For this portion, we just ask you to fill out a comment card and speak about any of the items on the agenda. We have them today down with Mr. Linderman because we've changed our setup a little bit. And I don't believe, but are there any, Mr. Linderman?
We have one who will speak on the second comment.
Second comment, okay, thank you. Anybody else here? First comment? Okay, hearing none, we're good. So we are moving on to the consent agenda. I do want to say here, Ms. Tate, can you kind of comment about this?
About the minutes?
Yeah.
I am going to motion that we add the approval of the regular meeting minutes from October 28th, 2024, and the approval of the special meeting minutes from November 14th, 2024 to the new business section of the agenda.
Okay, and then are there any questions about the finance portion of that? Okay, hearing none. Okay, Ms. Tate, do you want to add to the agenda, just so we get this correct, to approve the finance portion of the payment of bills?
So,
We'll amend the motion to include the approval.
yep, so I'll amend my motion to approve the finance portion of the consent agenda.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
Support Cummings.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tate, support by Mr. Cummings. Is there any discussion before we move on? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call, please?
Yep. Ms. Tate, yes. Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, we are on to subcommittee reports and project updates. First will be engineering with Mr. Freeman.
Good evening. As I look down the row. Water distribution projects, the C2R2 funded projects, Phase 6, my report back in October, that project is complete in the field. Board has previously approved the change order and the final pay request, and that was submitted as part of the C2R2 reimbursement request number 12. And we should be seeing that money back from the state. There's a possibility yet this week, more likely probably right after the Thanksgiving Day holiday, in the amount of $334,424.43. Phase 7, the final remaining phase of that project is still underway. Catamount Trucking is continuing to hook up individual services and complete the well abandonments. An update from the report that's in your packet, we are now actually at 44 completed services to date. 4 services have been requested by property owners on vacant property, and we had 4 permits that we had 4 service locations that were required. We had to have MDOT permits along US 23. Those are complete now. We have 15 services still in the queue to be completed, and with those numbers out of this round, we sent out 126 notices originally. We've got 65 yes, 12 no, and the remaining ones are no response. And we're gonna come up with a plan. Probably, we have the addresses and such. We might do a door hanging as far as in those locations. Just as final reminder is the grant expires 12/31 of next year, so we still have plenty of time, but with the contractor on site, it'd be nice to try to get as many of those hooked up as we could yet this year. If not, we'll pick it up again in the spring. The 2024 DWRF program, we held a pre-construction meeting with Schaff and Associates back on October 30th. He is looking at getting started here with hydrant replacements on the air base, and we'll be meeting with him and F&V operations to identify those obsolete fire hydrants and the ones that were found in the Emmy Simpson's leak detection report, and we'll get those taken care of this winter as long as weather continues to be somewhat friendly. First disbursement request was submitted to Eagle on that. Same schedule as the C2R2, maybe yet this week, if not next week. First disbursement request was for $282,284.52. EPA community grant, I've had some communication with the grant coordinator in Chicago. They're looking through the draft work plan, our scheduled NEPA process, the local share exemption that we've requested, contractor preference, and hopefully he will have comments or final approval on that here within the next couple of weeks, and then we can get the grant physically set up and then start requesting reimbursements for the work that's been done to date on that. CDSMI, the water service inventory, is complete in the field. Notices were sent out to the property owners that were identified to have galvanized water services, and the direction that Eagle wanted them to have on that. As I mentioned, the water system leak detection is complete by M.E. Simpson in the field. We are trying to get a meeting scheduled up internally here with Rowe Professional Services, F&B Operations, and myself to go over that and look at what the next steps are. Along with that, we will have a report on the River Road area and hopefully have some idea as far as if there's any issues that we have to address there. Sanitary sewer projects, the 2024 CWSRF pre-construction meeting was held same day, 10/30/24. First disbursement request has been submitted to Eagle for $722,186.94. That project, most likely because that's going to involve a lot of equipment, pumps, controls, and all that stuff, a fair amount of lead time. We probably won't see any work start up on that until March or April, once that equipment starts coming in. Ken Ratliff Park, I just received, after putting this report out, the 50% plans from WTA for review here at the township. We'll get comments back to them, and they will look to finalize those plans with the budget and shoot to be advertising that project in the January, February timeframe with construction next summer. And we'll coordinate the construction next summer to minimize impacts at Warrior Pavilion and the restroom bathhouse facility there with spring and summer use. Hull Island, the project agreement along with the resolution was passed by the board and has been forwarded to the MDNR for execution. Once I have that back executed, we can proceed with the appraisal. I have notified the appraiser to get it on schedule, just for the fact that it's about a 6 to 8 week time frame on the schedule, which would mean that we'd have the appraisal back most likely early 2025. And I did have a discussion with Huron Pines today, got them up to speed, and we would look at finalizing the transfer from Huron Pines to Oscoda Township probably in the March or April timeframe. And then we would be, with the grant, we will get reimbursed for that transition. Phase 3 trail project, no update there, no change in the report there. Still waiting for the MDNR to schedule a final walkthrough on the project. DPW did install the sign on the project. That was the final thing that we needed to do prior to the inspection. Once the inspection is complete, we will receive the final reimbursement request on that grant, which I believe was right around $30,000. And that'll close out that project. Old Orchard Campground Project, the ORV crossing of River Road, still waiting to hear from the Forestry Service. Road Commission has no issues with it. That'll be a tree trimming project with pavement markings across River Road to connect to the ORV trail that's on the south side of River Road. Facility study is still standing there, keeping eyes and ears open for funding opportunities, and we'll bring that to the board's attention once something surfaces that seems legitimate.
Excuse me, remind me again, what does WTA refer to?
Wigan Ticknell and Associates.
Thank you.
Well, take that, Wigan Ticknell Architects.
There we are. Okay,
So, yes,
thank you.
out of Saginaw.
All right.
So, coordinating with F&V Operations, again, continuing to investigate water loss investigations. We have submitted the draft lagoon effluent discharge permit to Eagle. I don't believe we've heard anything back on that yet. Again, also keeping tabs on the local PFAS and PFAS contamination investigations. And then we have out there a draft IPP program that we can investigate once everybody is up to speed as far as what the next steps on that would be. Specific grant opportunities, the Oscoda Beach Park, the preliminary design is underway for, preliminary concepts are underway for the dune project down there. We should have a conceptual plan to look at maybe later in December or the 1st of January. Because I said I wanted to make sure that that what's being proposed is acceptable to the township as far as what it will look like, and then that's in conjunction with helping the long-term maintenance of a new boardwalk once we get that funded. That either one isn't contingent on the other one, so we can still go forward with the boardwalk without the dune. And if the dune is ready before the boardwalk is, we can decide on that, so. Speaking of the boardwalk, we did get we submitted the final supplemental information on that. Final scores came in on that. We don't know how we ranked as far as that goes. We'll have a final decision on that usually in early December. Same thing with the MDNR passport grant at the Oscoda Huron Sunrise Park. Final scores are in, and we'll hear from them in a final decision on that in early December. There is an MEDC RAP application opportunity coming up in short order. I think the due date is at the end of January, and I'll be having some discussions with Mr. Maxwell as far as what possible project we would want to chase after at that, and what the local match would be and all that. Safe routes to school, we're looking at dusting off that opportunity again with the ever decreasing condition of sidewalks within the township, and that's around kind of a connectivity with students walking to school, to bus stops and that, and we'll identify potential areas there to apply for funding. Funding would be awarded by the end of September 2025 for sidewalk construction, if we're successful, sidewalk construction in 2026. And then several other opportunities that are ongoing out there, keeping apprised of any additional opportunities for some of the projects that are out there. One that has come up rather quickly, I believe it was discussed at one of the budget work sessions. There is funding that is available for the next 3 phases of the trail, from Old Orchard Campground. Phase 5 would go from there to Lumberman's Monument, then Phase 6 would be from Lumberman's Monument to M65, and then then Phase 7 would go around M65 down to Plainfield Township, sorry. The grant is a National Scenic Byways grant from the federal government. River Road is designated as a National Scenic Byway. And we have the MDOT is actually going to submit the grant by December 16th. We are in competition with another scenic byway in the state of Michigan. I don't know which one, but indications are we're the only one that is proposing a trail along it, which scores better. So I'm working with the MDOT regional trail manager, putting together our package as far as continuing on the phases that we've done so far, and hopefully they're going to choose between the two, and that's the one that they will submit the grant on. So we'll have an answer on that by December 16th, whether we were selected for this round. As far as going nationally, we're still then in competition there. He's pretty confident. He likes Michigan's opportunities because they haven't received any National Scenic Byway grants since 2012. So we'll wait and see on that. And everything can be included in that as far as the grant, as far as pre-planning time, grant application time, survey, design, all of that can be part of the grant. There's no limitations as far as what category they will fund. There's obviously a dollar limitation. Normally, they have nationally, I think it's about $23 million to distribute, so. And that's essentially my report. Any questions?
Yeah, Rick, I was going to ask you if you could stay at the table because you're going to become a point in my update. I'm going to have a question for you. So
Okay.
keep you in front of the microphone.
I can stay here.
Tim, can you, I'm sorry, I could not hear that. What did you say?
It's funny, I'm trying to get in the microphone so that they can hear it.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
can't figure out where the
Yep.
speaker's going. I asked him to stay at the table because I'm going to have a question for him when
For the wrap?
it's time for my update.
Okay, for sure.
Yes,
Okay, I
yeah.
couldn't hear, sorry. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Freeman? Positions? Okay, I will say I had a good conversation with Mr. Freeman this morning, Ms. Hausmus. Mr. Freeman and I, we went and toured the old school downtown, and it was good to get some introspective into kind of everything that Rick's working on and a little more background. There's some exciting things kind of coming up that we'll be working on, as he had kind of mentioned, but it's good to kind of see that. So with that being said, Ms. House.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Maxwell has mentioned it already, but I want to thank Mr. Freeman and Mr. Maxwell. This morning, we walked around the exterior of Oscoda Elementary School, and I will be awaiting any further direction on this project from the Township Board. So that being said, I'm going to move on to the Match on Main and the revitalization and placemaking projects that are coming up. Just to update everyone, the Match on Main in the past has seen 2 funding rounds from the state of Michigan. This year, there's only 1, and it begins January 1st. And the 2 programs, the Match on Main and the RAP, or the Revitalization and Placemaking Program, they're stressing to our businesses that when you come to apply, they need to be shovel-ready. And also to have any funding, whether it be grants, other grants, loans, anything like that, this has to be secured before it can go before the committee, and it's not a local committee, it goes to the state level for approval. So that, keep in mind, so the very first project that I have to work on with this will be getting the information out to our businesses and making them aware of the 2 programs that are coming up in very short order, because the one opens January 1st and the RAP program is already open, but it does not close until, I believe, the middle of March. This past Tuesday, November 19th, I virtually attended my very first committee meeting for the State Community and Worker Economic Transition Advisory Committee. And I swear there's somebody in Lansing whose job is just to name all these committees and get the title like this big. Anyway, it was a great opportunity. I was one of 80-some people attending on this virtual meeting. I think I was the farthest northern person in the state here online for it. And it was really interesting to hear the perspective of not only the downstate folks, but also the input from the northern part of the state. This will be the very first national initiative to form a statewide economic process or program or roadmap, whichever you want to call it. And they used the example of the auto industry. Michigan is infamous for automobiles. That's what we're known for. But maybe up in the northern part of the state, we don't have to build the automobile, but maybe we could manufacture the parts. And also with the coming electric vehicles, the EVs. Again, we wouldn't necessarily have to manufacture the vehicle, but maybe we could make the parts. So it's a good opportunity when the economy is changing in the country, in the state, in our county, in our township, as much as it is. Any opportunity like this to come along and for this part of the state to be represented, I'm honored to be on this committee. So I look forward to more meetings. I've also had an opportunity to meet with the social district. For those of you not familiar with it, this was the second summer for our social district. And this was proposed by the township a few years back. And no one had really reached out to our businesses, whether they be the 3 restaurants involved or the surrounding businesses that are in the social district, just simply asking, how's it going? What can we do better? How can we help you? Tell us what you need. Tell us what's wrong. Tell us what's working. So we had probably an hour-and-a-half meeting that I thought and felt that it was very productive. And I hope they did too. I came away with a whole lot of questions to ask a whole lot of people. So that keeps me busy. I'm also working with the Chamber of Commerce Director, Ms. Leonati, on several of their projects. I volunteered to work on the parade, the Northern Lights Parade that's coming up on December 7th. And I've also attended and reached out to the Oscoda Convention and Visitors Bureau on several ideas that they've had, and they're looking for some help with that. I'm working with 2 of our local businesses on some grant opportunities for them for the new year to see how we can help them, not necessarily the township in particular, but just being the conduit to put business with money and get them together. So a couple things, just notes that I neglected to put in my report to the board. This coming Saturday, you know, Friday is Black Friday. Well, Saturday is Small Business Saturday. So encourage all of our residents to shop local as much as they can and to support our local businesses, please. On November 14th, I had the opportunity to attend my first Develop IOSCO meeting as a member of their board. And on December 5th, which would be next Thursday, Develop IOSCO is having their community annual meeting. It will be at the Tawas Bay Beach Resort, which to me will always be the Holiday Inn. And that begins at 8:30. The doors open. Program begins at 9 o'clock. I also had an opportunity to attend a webinar on childcare. It was a 2-hour session a week ago. That was very eye-opening. And especially from the standpoint that childcare, especially in Michigan, has not involved economic development. And that was something that was really stressed, that needs to be included in that. Because they used the phrase, and I wrote this down because it was so impactful to me, when childcare works, we all work. And that one of the statistics, and a lot of these webinars are really big on statistics, but they mentioned that 18% of children in Michigan live in poverty. And in this area of the state, that figure is probably a lot higher and more so than what we probably know. And on that note, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I keep busy.
Yes, you did.
Any questions for me from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. House. Anybody? Anything for Ms. House? Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. House. Appreciate the update. Okay. With that, I will move on to the supervisor's update. That is me. What I'm going to start with is the aforementioned blight ordinance public hearing. Kind of when this was originated, I think most people here have had the opportunity to see some of the verbiage and what has been put forth by the township. Several months ago, I had some concerns about this. And one of the reasons is, you know, I'd gone to multiple meetings, and one of the things I was concerned is when the people came out and voted in August, they gave a mandate to this new board for us to essentially assess what's been going on. And as things were continuing to get passed through, such as the blight ordinance that would be impacting our board, it felt improper at times. And kind of the process that it had followed, there were a number of issues, and I was able to speak with the municipal attorney, Mr. Eppert, about this. And his recommendation and kind of what we settled on was to not have the public hearing this evening. And one of the main reasons is to respect everybody in the public and the new board members. We all need to give feedback so we can have input on what essentially we will be implementing and in charge of enforcing within our community. The second thing, and I want to talk about this, is one of the issues with it is it combined what would be considered as zoning and regulatory ordinances. And those really are two separate things, and you can get into some real issues with potential litigation when they get combined. And so we need to really address, and some of those concerns from this end of the table were brought up in the discussion through public comment and board comment, and they were spot on. And so we need to kind of really go through, that's going to take us a period of time to assess and work with all board members and with the municipal attorney to correct that. And so I just want to understand that there will be a process, but that's why it wasn't on the agenda tonight. The second portion, on I believe it was November 14th, the special meeting, there was a accessory structure amendment that was on the agenda. And that is somewhat similar. That was something that was kind of being pushed through at the last minute. And really with the new board coming in, we should have the right for each of us to figure out what our viewpoints and opinions are on that. And so we will be working through that and addressing that. I can't say or speak on behalf of the board as a whole as how we each kind of view that, but we need to be given the opportunity to do that. So we will work forward on that. There also are some potential underlying issues with how that was brought forward. So we'll assess all of that and do it correctly. The next thing I want to talk about is there is a public hearing that's been public noticed and will be scheduled for our last regularly scheduled meeting on December 9th, where we will hopefully be discussing and presenting the budget to the public and seeing how that goes. I do recommend to the board, and this is why it is on the agenda, that we schedule a work session, as we have to take the ownership for that, as we will be the ones passing that, and that's going to be a big task for us to do that in the next couple weeks. The other thing I want to say is I just want to urge patience to the public. This is a big process and undertaking when you're transitioning a board to this level, considering we're coming in and we didn't have a municipal attorney or a superintendent on staff. It's going to take us time to work forward. We are going to address and assess things. I think you can see just from the visual aspect, you know, a small statement, us being down here on this level, where we are here on the public's level. We are not above the public. It was always an odd optic for me. We are going to continue to assess all the things that the township is doing and that we as a board collectively have input on, and we'll try to improve those. But it's going to take time. For example, we took office on Wednesday, and today at 4 p.m. I finally gained access to the website. Okay? There's a lot of things like this that are going to take a significant amount of time for us when we're looking through old processes and procedures. It's not something that we can just flip the lights on. It's going to take us a very long time. So I just want to say we are going to work at it. Just please be patient with us. We're going to try and do everything the right way. So that is my portion. Just before we move on, are there any questions for myself or anything?
No.
Okay, perfect. So with that, we are looking to Mr. Cummings for an update from the RAB.
All right, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your update very much, Tom. All right, so last Wednesday on the 20th of November over at the Methodist Church was our quarterly Air Force RAB meeting. As we have, I've been on this RAB now for roughly 7 years, 7.5 years, I think it's been, working with the Air Force for nearly 8. The tone and stance between the township and the Air Force has been interesting, is probably the nicest way to put it. There have been times when it's been contentious and times when it's been couched, cagey. So one of the things that I wanted to point out about the last meeting is one of the big points that came out actually a quarter ago, so 3 months earlier. And that is the delays that we're being told about in the implementation of what's called remedial actions. So when the Air Force is out there trying to fix a problem or trying to make the problem less, they do some investigation and they come up with a solution. And the process to get to that point has taken us years, and then the implementation of these is taking us more years than we are all happy with. Mr. Kimona is sitting in the audience here. He is on the RAB with me as a community RAB representative, and a number of us on that committee were dismayed, I think to put it lightly, at the speed at which things are moving. Now, to pivot just a bit to another aspect of this, and that was that the RAB meeting on the 20th generated a PBS news flash on their news program that was aired on just 3 days later on November 23rd. Folks should probably take a look at this. It's called the PBS News Weekend Live episode, November 23rd, 2024. It's a very good episode. It's not just about wordsmith. They talk about a number of things at the beginning. At roughly 11 minutes into the episode is when you start to hear about wordsmith and about a gentleman named Tony Spaniola, who's been very, very actively involved in helping us get wordsmith, Oscoda, in front of Congress, along with Kathy Westerbarth and the NOW organization. It's been a particularly important team there, teamwork. So I wanted to just make everybody aware of that. I think people should actually see that. It's a great episode. It's a good video. One of the things that was also announced in the meeting, what came up from the Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority. They're the folks that run the runway. Their update was deeply concerning when they discussed that they had received a letter from EGLE. EGLE is the acronym, and it comes from the state of Michigan. And it's our environmental agency that replaced the MEDC some years ago. Anyway, the update was that they had received official notice from EGLE that they were out of compliance with basically with the accusation is that they're somehow contributing to the PFAS problem because they're on, but remember, these people are on property that was once owned by the Air Force. But at this point, they're the current landowners. So what we're running into with them is, when they spoke, was that out of a $1.5 million budget, they spend roughly $1.4 million just trying to manage the property, the buildings, and the runway. That doesn't leave a whole lot of money for anything else, certainly not enough to go cleaning up PFAS issues. So they basically made it very clear that, if we're going to continue to go down this road, it could cause us grave issues, them as an organization. So to that, I want to bring up a question, is that with that letter having been recently served to the Airport Authority, I noticed in Rick Feeman's update that there was an entry on there regarding the township, and it was actually under the coordinating with the utility subcommittee and F&V operations, item number 2. We're talking about the Draft Eagle Lagoon effluent discharge permit application. So I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more information about that, but before I ask for that, Rick, I'd like to find out, are you aware of the township having received a similar letter from Eagle regarding PFAS or effluent? No. Okay. All right. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, we certainly fear that, but yeah, go ahead.
No,
if you don't mind, just the microphone.
and part of F&V operations, they do, and I don't think Catherine is here tonight, but I believe it's quarterly. They're required, on behalf of the township, to submit a report on their investigations of possible PFAS contamination, where they're taking samples out of manholes and all of that type of stuff. So that's being submitted on behalf of the township to Eagle. And like I said, I am not aware that Eagle has directly communicated to the township that there is anything that the township's out of compliance on or whatever, as far as those quarterly reports. You know, we've identified a couple of areas in the past, we've investigated them, put in remedial or mitigation measures, and I believe those are underway. I've sat in on when we were going through the the treatment plans out at the lagoon site. I sat in on one of those meetings with the Bay City regulatory people from Eagle, and again, they were very pleased with what the township had been doing and never got any indication that they were concerned. The effluent discharge there, that is strictly from the lagoons. That is, used to be on I think a 2-year cycle or a 3-year cycle that permit would have to be updated. Because of PFAS and all of that, that has been delayed. The last time the township had a current effluent permit was 2016. Again, not an issue that the township had done, it's just that when it was submitted for renewal, Eagle kind of, or at the time, MDEQ, put it on hold until they sorted out the whole PFAS limits and all of that type of stuff, so.
Yeah, and thank you very much. When you said MDEQ, that's right. I said MEDC earlier. I apologize for the wrong acronym in the alphabet soup. Thank you for that. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, this is one of the issues that unfortunately, you know, this is exactly what we as a township and what we as the RAB, these different organizations are trying to push to get solution, to get remedial action done to clean up the contamination left by the Air Force, nothing that any of us have anything to do with. The wonderful thing about this last meeting, finally, as I start to wrap up this update, is that the Air Force did admit that the PFAS problem at the base was indeed caused by them. Getting them to even say these words was astoundingly difficult over the years, but this was actually really nice to have on tape. And with that, I thank you very much. Is there any questions for me?
Thank you. Yeah, anything for Mr. Cummings? Before we move on? Okay, thank you. Appreciate the update. Yeah, it's a lot there, so. Okay, with that, we are moving on to new business, and I will have to say with item number 1, Civic Plus quote, I do need to give a little disclaimer about this before we have a motion. After assessment, essentially what this is a holdover from the last board, and this is essentially an annual contract for our codes and ordinances online through Municode, and it is a renewal for those services. We were having a discussion this morning, Ms. McGuire and I, and she brought up the fact that this is actually dated from April 16th, and as I said, this is kind of given to us by the previous board. It's essentially, we only have a couple options with this because of the date for this. I do have some contact reaching out, but no contact back with the actual company. So one of the things we're looking at is essentially we could have something where I had the authorization, or a township member, representative had the authorization up to a specific dollar amount in case in the coming days contact was able to be made. And the only reason I said that is because I believe that it starts as an effective date of 12/1, December 1st, and so we have a tight timeline. And so obviously, like, we can't go back in time to the previous board and figure out why there's a 7-month gap and it wasn't brought to the board sooner. So one option is that. The other option is to approve it and hope that the dollar figure is the same. So with that being said, I think there's a pretty common sense approach to this. I would say that if we had a motion, if there's somebody that potentially has a motion for this.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payment to Civic Plus not to exceed $5,000.
Support Cummings.
I do think we should, would you be open to amending that the approval will be from a specific representative? I just was given that.
All right, I'll amend my motion to include that you are the contact.
Okay.
Yeah, that the supervisor is the contact to
Okay.
get the issue cleared up.
I just want to
And
clarify.
a not to exceed 5,000.
Yeah, I just want to clarify because I did speak with our municipal attorney about this today as well.
Okay.
I didn't have time to debrief everybody, so. Okay, we have a motion from Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Is there any discussion or questions now about this?
Just as a point, I do still support it after the amendment.
Okay, with the amendment. Thank you, sorry, yes, I apologize. Yes, still have support, yes, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, we have a motion that was amended by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Can we have roll call, please?
Yep. Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes. Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 2, we have row invoices. In this instance, they were put as a single line item. We're going to have Ms. McGuire here read those out individually, okay?
Okay. All right, so the first invoice is 0116048, and it's for the 2024 CWSRF in the amount of $42,972.99. And we can pay those funds, we can pay right away with those, because we don't have to wait for reimbursement, I have the money.
Okay. Do you want to put forward the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a motion to pay.
Okay, motion. Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire. Is there support?
I support.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Fortner. Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay.
Okay, the next invoice, I make a motion to pay invoice number 0116047 in the amount of $2,280 to be paid from the DWSRF Fund 2024, because we do have the amount to pay that.
Okay. Motion by Ms. McGuire. Do we have support?
Support Linderman.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Linderman. Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes. Mr. Gear?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, Ms. McGuire, next.
Next invoice is from Row in number 0116039 in the amount of $1,616.25, and this will be paid from multiple funds. Numbers.
Okay,
A motion to pay, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Keep-
Motion by Ms.
You
McGuire,
support this.
support by Ms. Fortner.
Okay.
So motion by Ms.
Yeah.
McGuire, support by
Okay.
Ms. Fortner. Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed.
You would think this was my first meeting.
With us it is. With us it is.
It is, it's all news.
Next is row invoice number, and I'm making the motion
There we
for
go.
the payment.
Here we go.
For invoice number 0116042 in the amount of $5,197.50, and this will come from the C2R2 funds, if the money is available or when reimbursement is possible.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have support?
Support Tregear.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Tregear. Ms. State, may we have a roll call?
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Ms. McGuire?
Next, I'll make a motion to approve invoice 0116051 in the amount of $18,915 to come from the EPA 2023 fund, when the available funds are there.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have support?
Support Tregear.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Tregear. Ms. State, may we have roll call?
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, Ms. McGuire.
Next is, I'll make a motion to approve invoice number 0116049 in the amount of $14,307.50 to come from the C2R2 fund when the money is available.
Okay, do we have support?
Support Tregear.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Tregear. Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Ms. McGuire.
That's it for the row invoices.
Okay, we are done. So, great. And that's something we will improve and kind of get in order going forward so that they're on there in the correct way. That'll just happen. So next we're on to number 3, Caterman Trucking, pay application number 3, C2R2 Phase 7.
So I will make a motion that we approve the pay application number 3 from the C2R2 funds in the amount of $219,308.40 to Caterman Trucking.
Support Linderman.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Lindeman. Ms. State, roll call, please.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, great. So we are on to, and I'm going to make one small point here before we get into the appointments. You'll notice that there are several committees or representatives that there are alternates and there are none being recommended. This is part of the transition. There's not documentation in our hands on these specific boards and committees at this time, whether or not each of these boards that has an alternate requires one. So we are going to have to take time to have the representative and administration ensure that, and it was imperative that we have a representative as we have meetings coming up, but moving forward, the alternates, if so needed, they will be appointed at a future meeting. So, okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So with that, we have potentially number 5 would be the appointment of board representative. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Creation of IT committee, I apologize. The lighting in here. So number 4, creation of IT committee. Sorry, Mr. Cummings.
No, don't worry.
Yes,
It's fine.
sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
I skipped one.
That's okay. It's a bit of an agenda night. So, yeah, so just to explain to folks what this IT committee is about, it was something I requested for some years. I've been on this board for roughly 8.5 years now. We don't have anybody at Township Hall who is an IT individual. We have utilized myself and other folks who've been on the board who've had IT experience, which has helped this, kind of bridge the gap on whatever the issue was we might be having. We certainly have outsourced a good deal of support from what was originally a company called IT Right to a company then that was called VC3. They took over IT Right. They provide our support, day-to-day help with computers and network equipment and things like that. But what I had not seen, as I was hoping to see from the VC3 pitch, when they talked about what we were going to get as a value add for paying more for their services, we didn't get what I thought would be something like a steering committee, a opportunity to sit down and talk about what are the things that we need to be thinking of and planning for in the next year. This could even be something we could start anticipating at the end of, let's say, a year like this, let's say 6 months ago or more, where we're planning for what are we going to be updating in 2025 or the very next fiscal year. So not just for operations viewpoint, but for the viewpoint of planning and finances. So anyway, that was one point. And then there's also just, frankly, growing pains. You know, we have had to start to confront the need that the township has between the police and Township Hall and Old Orchard that is down the road. We're all on the same, kind of they call it same account, if you will. And we have needed to look at increasing our bandwidth. So just like you guys at home, you know, if you have one person at home and you can stream a movie without a problem over the internet, but you suddenly get a couple of other folks in the house and now everybody wants to watch different movies and now you've got a problem. So, you know, you got to increase your plan. And so essentially it's what's going on here without the movie analogy. The work here at Township Hall and at these different departments has increased. And so therefore we need more bandwidth. So this is an example of something that if we, with this committee, we can actually start to put together have these conversations, start to see where the pain points are before they become super big pain points, and that we run into outages as a result of missing the opportunity to address it before it's too late. That's the concept. And even little things, because quite frankly, things that I take for granted, having been in this industry since I was 13, just a couple of years ago, what I take for granted and what other people might not know are very different. And so there's a lot that can actually be shared and help make people's jobs easier. That's also a particular concern and within the scope of what this committee could do. Anyway, I wanted to lead this committee. I wanted to be able to bring action items to it. I wanted to include folks that would be aware of what we're trying to talk about and in a position to be able to agree with whatever topics we're all discussing. That's it. That's the pitch for the committee. Thank you for the long.
Yeah, no, that's great. I will say this, one of the things in speaking about the committees with kind of municipal attorney and kind of looking through it, one thing we want to make sure is that our committees have specific resolutions defining the bounds of which they will operate within. So we want to ensure with any motion that we have that. We can form the committee and then the committee can essentially sit down and bring a resolution back to the township board for approval. And obviously anything that the potential committee would make as a recommendation will be brought back to the board in full. So with that being said, is there a potential motion for item number 4?
Well, all right, so I'll pitch the motion that I move that the Oscoda Township Board of Trustees agree to create an IT committee officially under the Oscoda Township Board.
I support.
Okay, perfect. And we have a motion by Mr. Cummings and support by Ms. Fortner. Ms. Tate? Is there any additional discussion before we move on? Okay, I do want to say, this is another point for me to kind of say, I think it's imperative that we do this because, as I mentioned earlier, it took us a number of days to even gain access to our website. There was only one person in town hall that had access to that. There's a number of things that Ms. Tate and I have been working on, and, to gain access to email accounts and other things that the township has to do through the state of Michigan or federally. And I won't have access for some of those for days or weeks in advance. And so having a committee like this can create a formal process and procedure set so that all of these things, there's different levels of protection so that the township has the accessibility in case there were, people that are out or something like that. And so it's something I think that's a really good idea for that. So, anything else? Okay, we had a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. Fortner. Ms. Tate, may we have roll call, please?
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, now I had jumped ahead, but now we are on to our board representatives. We have number 5.
Actually, Mr. Maxwell, I wanted to mention, so we haven't established who's on the committee. Do you want to go through that now? Or is that
It's
not,
at
is that
the-
listed for?
Yeah.
It's later in the
I
agenda.
believe it's on
Oh,
number 17.
number 17.
Yep,
Never
so we
mind. Thank
created
you.
it, and then we will come back to that. You are correct.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, so number 5, we were talking about the Planning Commission. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Linderman to the representative for the Planning Commission.
Support.
Okay, motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Tate. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 6, we are on to the EIC appointment. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint Ms. Tregear to the Economic Improvement Committee.
Representative?
Yep.
Okay.
Support Cummings.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tate, support by Mr. Cummings. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, we are on to number 7 for the OWAA. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Maxwell as a representative to the Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority.
Support Cummings.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 8, we're on to the board representative for the 911 board. Is there a motion?
Just a question before we get to the motion. It does say end alternate, but there's no one listed.
Yeah, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. Several of these committees, there is not documentation in our possession at this time, and this is one of those process and procedure things we need to really clean up. We are not sure which committees actually require, outside of the one that I had spoke to you with about the RAB, that actually require, and if it's not a township sourced committee, it really defers to the board protocol and what's been set place by that board. So rather than make an assumption, we're making sure we have the board representative, and then through that representative, that board and the township, we will appoint alternates as needed moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. Okay, so that was, I apologize, did we have a motion for that?
No.
No,
Okay, do we have a motion for number 8, board representative for the 911 board?
I move that we appoint Ms. Tregear to as the representative of the Township Board to the 911 Board.
Support Linderman.
Okay, we had a motion by Mr. Cummings and support by Mr. Linderman. Any discussion? Hearing none? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 9, this is a board that we are, through Mr. Cummings, aware that we do need an alternate, so that's why we have it there. We're talking about the RAB board. Is there a motion?
So I think we have to appoint each one individually, correct?
We do.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yep, I will make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Cummings as the board representative to the RAB board.
Support Linderman.
I apologize.
Somebody pick.
Okay, who's, they both came, I heard Mr. Linderman. Okay, thank you.
Sounds great.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Linderman. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, now on to the alternate.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Maxwell as the alternate to the RAB.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Tate. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, we are on to number 10, the LDFA. Do we have a motion?
I move that we appoint Ms. McGuire as the board representative to the Local Development and Finance Authority.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. Tate. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 11, the representative for the HSRUA. Do we have a motion?
I move that we appoint Mr. Maxwell as the board representative to the Huron Shores Regional Utility Authority.
Support.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. McGuire. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 12, the board representative for the CLIB. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Ms. Tate to the CLIB.
Support Cummings.
Okay, I just want to apologize so we get this right. Do we have to amend it so it's a board representative to the CLIB?
Sounds appropriate.
Because that's what we were kind of doing. Mr. Gear, can you amend your motion?
Yes, I'll amend the motion, support to, to elect, appoint the board member, Ms. Tate.
As Ms. Tate as the board representative to the Cedar Lake Improvement Board.
Appoint Ms. Tate as the board representative to the CLIB.
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry.
And
Support
all right.
continues.
okay, support continues. Thank you, Mr. Cummings. So we have a motion by Mr. Gear, support by Mr. Cummings. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. We're on to number 13, the board representative for the Oscoda Twp Senior Center Building Authority. Is there a motion?
I'll make
Yes.
a motion that we appoint Ms. Fortner as the board representative to the Oscoda Twp Senior Center Building Authority.
Support Cummings.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed. Okay, we are on to 14, the appointment of board representative to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there a motion?
I move that we appoint Ms. Tate as the board representative to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. Tregear. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call.
Ms. Tregear?
Yes.
Ms. Fortner?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Tate? Yes. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, motion passed.
The
Okay,
second one I popped it in.
we are on to
Special talent.
number 15, the board representatives to the contract committee. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Cummings, Mr. Linderman, and Mr. Maxwell as the board representatives to the contract committee.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support from Ms. Tregear. Is there any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Number 16, appointment of board representatives to the policy committee. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Ms. McGuire, Mr. Maxwell, and Mr. Cummings as the board representatives of the policy committee.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tate, support by Ms. Tregear. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, we are on to number 17, the appointment of the board representatives to the newly formed IT committee. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Cummings, Mr. Maxwell, and Ms. Tate to the board representatives to the IT committee. Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Fortner, support by Ms. Tregear. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Tregear, Ms. Tregear. Yes, this whole night I knew I was going to do that. Ms. Tregear
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, it's a lot. We have a lot of these, so.
Is that right?
Okay, we were talking about the number 18 is the appointment of board representatives to develop IOSCO. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move that we appoint Mr. Linderman and Ms. Tate as board representatives to develop IOSCO.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cummings and support from Ms. McGuire. Any discussion? Okay, I do want to say this is not in official capacity with Develop IOSCO as though that we are a representative on their board or anything. It's to go there and essentially communicate what is transpiring at their meetings. I do believe in the future we will be bringing up a discussion about potentially joining Develop IOSCO, and this will be a step in that direction. So that being said, anything further? Okay, we had a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. McGuire. Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, number 19, we are talking about the appointment of board representatives to a Parks and Recreation Committee. The reason this is TBD is it's very nuanced. There is essentially we have the authority to create a committee similar to a EIC or a CIA or Planning Commission of the like, which is essentially to some extent regulated by the state of Michigan and their laws. We do not know and cannot find any of the documentation for the formation of the Parks and Rec Committee. So we have opted to include this because it is a committee. It has been previously discussed, but it is my recommendation that we postpone this to a future date so that we can properly vet this and find what was actually created and what our options are before we start appointing people to a committee. So with that being said, is there a motion?
Do you have a time frame in mind, like of how far you want to postpone it?
I do not. I need to speak of the long list of things I've spoken with Mr. Epford about. This has not made it on there yet.
Yeah.
But I do not, I think it would be preemptive to say December 9th. One of the changes we are going to make is the things we do delay will fall into old business so they don't just disappear off of the agenda unless there's a specific motion that we need it to happen. So essentially it still will be on there as one of, just as the As the alternatives for the boards, they will fall to old business as they were not acted upon tonight. So that is my belief, is we motion to essentially delay this until further notice, and that will be open-ended indefinitely, thank you. And that will be addressed in the future as time permits. So,
I
with
make
that,
a motion that we table this until
Postpone.
indefinitely
It would be
for the
postponed.
representatives of,
It would be postponed at table, is it not?
yes, thank you. I apologize. Can you say that?
okay.
Let's amend your motion.
I will amend my motion that we will postpone
Correct.
the creation of the Board of Representatives for the Park and Recreation Committee.
Yeah.
I would say appointment, we would want to amend this because we don't know what has been created and we can't find any documentation, so we don't know if we're talking about a creation or appointments. So I'm not sure exactly how we want to do
The
that.
creation and/or appointment?
Yes.
Good. Works.
Creation or,
Okay, let's, just for a point of clarification, what do we have, Ms. Tate, as our motion?
Motion to postpone indefinitely the creation of the Parks and Rec Committee and/or the appointment of board representatives to the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Okay, is that, okay, do we have support?
Sounds okay?
So I think that you should eliminate the creation of.
yeah.
Because
Okay,
your
thank you.
title
Yep.
that you have
I
on the
agree.
agenda is just for the representative,
Okay.
in
Perfect.
my opinion.
I agree. Okay, can we have one more amendment?
If that's
Motion
what
to
she-
postpone
if she would like
indefinitely
to
If she
amend
would
it.
like to amend
Appointments.
that
I would
potentially?
love to amend.
Okay, thank you.
I can do this all night.
I can only write so fast though, so,
Okay, let's get this right.
yep. I support this motion.
Oh, gosh.
It's all good.
Can you?
This is just a dress
clarification?
rehearsal, folks.
I apologize.
Just a dress rehearsal.
Can you, yeah, can you reread this
Yep,
motion?
I sure can.
Okay.
Ms. Fortner made a motion to postpone indefinitely the appointment of board representatives to the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Okay, and so we have support, or we have a motion by Ms. Warner,
Yep,
support by Ms. Tate.
You got it.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, with that, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call,
Yep,
please?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed.
Okay.
Thank you. I apologize, it's gonna, some working on some new things for us, so, okay. And I appreciate everybody here, we have a good attitude about this, so that's good. Number 20 is our FOIA coordinator. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move that we appoint Ms. Tate as our official FOIA coordinator for the Township of Oscoda.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. Tregear. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call?
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, so we're on to the first added item, number 21, would be essentially to talk about scheduling a work session for, it would be a budget work session. And my hope is that we would be next week, hopefully earlier in the week. What we have looked at is I reached out to the library of available times where we could meet there. And what we were looking at is Tuesday, and we have to see everybody's availability, we haven't been able to vet that yet, is it would be next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, from 4 to 6 p.m. roughly. How is everybody's availability for that?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm open.
Mr. Linderman?
I'm open, maybe
You
4:05-ish.
Yeah. Yep. Ms. McGuire?
Yes, I'm available.
You're available, Ms. Tate?
Yep, sure am.
Yeah.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
I was working around the library schedule, and so this was the one option, but we have other options if needed, but,
So I may not be able to make it, but I would like you to continue without me. It's okay.
Okay.
There's going to be some difficulties next week, so I apologize.
okay. And I want to verify, what was the date of next Tuesday?
It is
December
the 3rd.
The third.
December 3rd, okay. So we are looking at scheduling a budget work session at the library
Okay,
for Tuesday, December 3rd, from 4 to 6 p.m. roughly, starting at 4 p.m. I should say. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we have a work session on December the 3rd, starting at 4, possibly ending at 6,
okay.
Can we just include that?
at the library,
Thank you.
at Parks Library.
And that it's a budget
And
work
it's a
session?
budget work session.
We got,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Fortner, support by Ms. Tregear. Any additional discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call.
Mr. Linderman,
yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes,
Ms. Tate, yes, Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Great, okay. We're on to, we had moved a couple additional items, number 22 and 23, or we can combine them both at the same time, and they're essentially the meeting minutes from the last board. And I guess I will start and say that there are some issues with both of the minutes, and we spoke to the municipal attorney about this, Ms. Tate and I did, and it was his recommendation that we delay any approval on these minutes until we address. And the time frame for all of that is going to take us a little bit of time for Ms. Tate to address that. So that's why we kicked them down to this portion. So with that being said, I want to ensure that I get this in the correct order. We are talking, do we want to combine these into one, or do we want them each as separate?
I think you should do them separately.
Okay, so first is going to be the regular meeting minutes from October 28th, 2024. Is there a motion to delay the approval of these minutes?
Yep, I motion that we delay the approval of the minutes from the regular Oscoda Township Board meeting held on October 28th of 2024.
support Cummings.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tate, support by Mr. Cummings. Is there any questions or discussion? Okay, Ms. Tate, may we have roll call, please?
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes,
Ms. Tate, yes, Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, we're on to number 23 now, which is the special meeting minutes for November 14th of 2024. Is there a motion?
Yep, I make a motion that we delay the approval of the minutes from the Oscoda Township Board special meeting held on November 14th, 2024.
support Cummings.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tate, support by Mr. Cummings. Any discussion or question? Okay, Ms. Tate, roll call, please.
Ms. Tregear,
Yes.
Ms. Fortner,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes,
Ms. Tate, yes, Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, motion passed. Okay, I believe that is the end of our new business, correct?
it is.
Okay, we have nothing else there. We are on to public comments. Are there any members of the public wishing to make a comment? Yep, you can go right up to the stand right there. If you could just please state your name for the record.
Certainly. My name is Sherry Schoenfield.
4 minutes, it's my house.
So first, I'd like to congratulate the new board on all of your appointments. But sadly, I'm here today to bring forth a situation in which I feel Carrie Osborne, Planning Commission representative on Oscoda Township's Economic Improvement Committee, has violated the Township Code of Ethics as adopted April 11, 2012, specifically Part 1.03, Responsibilities of a Public Office and Employment, which in part states, Township officials and employees are agents of the public purpose and hold office or employment for the benefit of the public. Their conduct in both their official and private affairs should be above reproach. All township officials and employees shall safeguard public confidence by being honest, fair, respectful of all persons with whom they have contact, and by avoiding conduct which may tend to undermine respect for township officials and employees and for the township as a public body. On November 10th, 2024, I commented on a post that was made by Barb Roots on the Truly Oscoda Facebook group. Shortly thereafter, I also placed a post on the group's page in which I shared a YouTube video created by the Needy Homesteader. The topic of this post and the other was basically the information shared by Mr. Palmer regarding the FEMA staging at Wordsmith. My question in both my reply and my post was simply to ask, has anyone heard anything? Sadly, Mr. Osborne felt it necessary to wage a personal attack in response to my post. In his comments, he referred to me as a pot-stirring fool, said I knew damn well the answer was on another post, asked me to explain to him why I can't comprehend, again mentioned that I was stirring the pot and creating hysteria, and I was using the internet to feed my chaos. While I personally feel Mr. Osborne's name-calling and demeanor was unethical for a man in his position, it is his comment to the administrator of the Truly Oscoda group that has me the most concerned. When the admin called him out for attacking citizens and needing to do better, Mr. Osborne wrote, "So I lose my freedom of speech? I can say anything I want." And I wasn't talking about the original poster being a pot stirrer. I was talking about the YouTube video person. I was more respectful than most deserved. I can't wait for you to start your censoring program that you talked about implementing. Some people are stirring the pot and need a stern talking to. In my opinion, Mr. Osborne's response shows his inability to take responsibility for his actions and his lack of intent to adhere to the Oscoda Township Code of Ethics, now or at any point in the future. I urge the board to read over the entire exchange on the Truly Oscoda Facebook group. I also have a copy of that exchange here for you if you would like it for your records. The people of Oscoda voted the new board members in office because they wanted change. They didn't want the same bullying atmosphere that was so apparent from the previous administration. Therefore, for concern for this board and the residents of Oscoda Township, I am respectfully asking the board to review and properly address Mr. Osborne's conduct in this matter, and to put an end to the bullying culture that has been and appears to still be part of Oscoda Township. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Could you please approach and give Mr. Linderman those comments, please? You said you had a copy, so we have them on the record.
Thank you.
And I just want to take a quick moment. I want to apologize to the community. I did see some of these comments, and what we've kind of seen at times from some public officials is something we do need to take serious and address. And it's part of the reason, as you just said as well, that I think we have seen such a change. At its core, we're here to serve the community. We're members of this community. We have to respect everybody within the community, regardless of our personal opinions. And it is something we will take serious, and we have had some discussions about, so that everybody understands through our elected officials, appointed officials, township employees, through our processes and procedures and even standards, so that there's a simple standard that's kept for the whole community from our representatives. And we haven't seen that recently, and it's something we will address. So, okay, with that being said, are there any additional public comments? Correct.
Dave Carmona, resident. Congratulations, all of you, on your re-election or election. Welcome. And I have one item that I'd like to bring to your attention, since you're having a budgeting meeting. Under the CIP portion of the budget, one item particular caught my attention, and it goes to the social district and those things that you need to do to maintain a community. And that is the $14,700 allotted for road improvement. You might want to reconsider that. That's barely enough to cold patch one puddle somewhere in the town. And we expect the social district to improve. That road's in atrocious shape, as are the stones around the trees with the hoses coming up through the ground and all that. So we definitely need some capital improvement in our social district. $14,000 is not going to address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carmona. Something I will touch on there, if you're from the public, definitely think of attending the budget work session next week. That's how we get our feedback. We do have at the township an open door policy. If you have ideas, concerns, definitely come and approach us. You know, it's the only way we get true feedback. One of the things we're going to be looking at doing with Ms. House is with the survey that's been discussed, is really polling and figuring out a pulse from some of the public. We all up here have our own viewpoints and our own opinions, but we all have a narrow viewpoint of what we do see. And so when we can really do a broad view like that from the community, that's going to give us some good insight. So be looking forward to that coming up, and in terms of adopting the budget, we have a pretty short window here. So anything that stands out, by all means, come and approach us. So, okay, any additional public comments?
I'm Palma Leonati with the Oscoda Twp Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations to all of you on the board. I can certainly relate to me when I joined the chamber about, well, I guess it was in July, transitions a lot. And I do appreciate you guys taking the time and being really thoughtful in your approach as you take time to go through and address issues and just catch up on things in period. As Nancy House mentioned, we've gotten together. I do appreciate her time. She's been a godsend for sure for the Northern Lights Parade. That's a beast in itself, so I am grateful for her guidance and her time. As Nancy had mentioned, within the last 2 weeks, we had a CVB meeting as well, and I was able to attend that. That was my first time attending that. I just wanted to let you guys know that it's nice to see the synergies with us at the chamber, with Nancy, with you guys, and then also with the CVB. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and continuing that. I think that's going to be positive. Last Thursday, the chamber had their annual members meeting. The last time we had one of these was in 2022. So for me, coming on board, one of the important things is to really go back to the basics, right? And see what your members want and hear from them. As you said, you know, sometimes we see a narrow view of things and they have a different look at it from their perspective. So that was good for us to be able to have that as a chamber. We had some really great community support. Kelly Brown and Davey from Buzz Hub were there. They spoke. Dave Cremona was there. He spoke about the social district and the entertainment in the summer months. Rich Castle was there from Develop by Osco, and even Adam Hume was there. And he was speaking in regards to the Walleye Tournament, which is a nationwide event that's going to happen in June of this year, which is also good for our community. So I think it was important for them to speak and talk directly to our businesses. So I just really wanted to give you a sense of where we're going at as far as the chamber goes. Probably really low on your priority list. I was really excited. I don't know why this is important to me, but don't worry about it this year, maybe next year. With Nancy's help, the chamber discovered that we have a storage unit, and I don't remember the name of the place. You'll have to tell me where it's at. It's where on Saturdays everybody can go with their leaves and their brush and get rid of it, right? Well, there's a huge storage unit that's there. So I think it was Al that took me over there. The snowflakes that we put on US 23 is up there. So they're all out there, but there's 2 sets of them. He made a comment to me and he said that other set, the other, I think, administration had said something about, hey, maybe donate those to another community. My thought is, with having our social district, if they're okay, maybe we could keep them and put them on those side streets just for fun, especially like Dwight Street, just instead of having to always go buy something, if maybe we could repurpose them. Hint, hint. And then, of course, last but not least, the Northern Lights Parade is on December 7th. It's at 6 p.m. Anybody that would like to donate, please do. JD, he works here with Sue Miller at Shoreline Theater, and he's helping us to work towards streaming the actual parade. So those that are at home and can't make it, I think that would be a great thing to do. And also, if you want to have a float, walk, bring your marching band, sing, whatever, come on out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. That's a great idea. That's what we love to see from the community and other people that are committing a lot of their time, so that's cool. Ms. Roy.
Nancy Roy. I observed tonight that there are only 2 laptops.
That is true.
Wonder what happened to all the rest of them. Perhaps maybe we'll know by next meeting. My husband has noticed that there's a lady who's been trying to cross the street by Rogers near McDonald's. Perhaps with, by the way, she uses a walker. So he has seen her a couple of times and helped her get across the street. But we wondered if maybe that would be a good spot for a pedestrian crossing. Maybe with those flashing lights. I know it's a real busy portion of 23, but something there so that people like this lady can at least push the button and then get across the street without relying on other pedestrians to help her across. I think the only thing else I had, besides congratulations, everybody, do we know when we're going to advertise for the superintendent position?
Are you done? Because I assumed you and I can respond. Yeah, so basically part of the conversation at the budget workshop that we will be discussing is staffing for next year. There's been a number of conversations from the research that we've had up to this point. And I look forward to kind of presenting all that information, and we just have, the board, having the ability to have an open discussion about what our real options are. You know, there's been some feedback from the community over the last year, especially in the current economic climate, and we have to kind of assess what the options are with what our real financial circumstances. And that'll be something we'll discuss in detail at that meeting, I believe. So, in regards to the laptops, I've mentioned this already. Ms. McGuire, Ms. Tate, and I could have covered the whole meeting about the hurdles that we've had to overcome in the last several days since taking office. It is one of those, and we do hope to assess that in the future to be able to actually get all of our board members laptops at these meetings. We have printed out copies for this meeting. There are a lot of things that are on the list, and there's only so many hours in the day. So, but we will address that going forward. So that being said, any additional, okay, Ms. Brown.
Good evening, Kelly Brown, Oscoda. First and foremost, congratulations. You guys ran an excellent meeting tonight. I think the public knew what we were going to get with all of you, but your first performance was outstanding. So congratulations. You had a lot to do and a lot of appointments, but you managed through it. I did want to mention next Thursday, the Oscoda Growth Alliance, a little group of people we put together that do things like bring Social District alive with music by Dave Carmona, assembling that for us this past summer. We are going to have a community dinner at Tate's, 6 o'clock on Thursday. You can come order, you know, just pay your own meal, but you're going to meet with some community members if you're, you know, interested in volunteering, or you maybe want to find out what some things in the community getting involved in, the DBC, the social district, the music scene, you know, some of our small businesses will be there too. It's a great opportunity. So if you're interested, it is posted on Facebook, but it is next Thursday. But we'd like to just try and get a count. So if you can respond on our invite on Facebook, or you can get a hold of one of us, myself or Davey. The other thing I wanted to bring up, maybe many of you have or haven't noticed, Taoist moved their Christmas parade on an opposite weekend of ours. So I just wanted to bring up, because that's a really neighborly and community thing to do. Their parade is this Saturday, the 30th. And they're also advertising ours to try and cross-promote our communities and give people additional, you know, exciting things to do around the holidays. Every community is slightly different, and they put their own flair on things. So if you're not busy, after you gobble till you wobble, maybe stop out and head on down to Taoist on Saturday. Anyways, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, any additional public comments? Oh, yeah, one more. Mr. Cleary?
Matt Clary, Oscoda. Feel safe talking to you guys. I'm very happy that the professionalism that you guys are showing up here, that I believe has been lacking from boards in the past, and look forward to you guys really talking to each other and working things out. The main reason I'm up here is I want to promote the Shoreline Players 16 Annual Community Christmas Show. It is a free Christmas show. We have our Spidey Kids doing a little play, and then there'll be people like Dave Kimona on stage singing Christmas music, and myself and other members of the Shoreline Players. Most of them you saw in the cast in the play that you just watched, The Addams Family. So invite the community out to that. But again, thank you. Look forward to hearing what you guys are going to do. You know what you have to do. There's a lot of stuff that I think you guys are on the right track. I'm going to be excited working with you on the Planning Commission. I was so hoping that you would be the board member because we've talked in the past. So congratulations, and look forward to what you guys are going to do.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, Davey.
Everybody, congratulations again. I'm just really excited that we've got a great crew, new class, and people who are dedicated to building Oscoda. I also wanted to mention that, you know, the Oscoda Buzz Hub, if you want to download it to your phone, just go to oscodabuzzhub.com, and we'll have all the events and everything for you. We're trying to add new content to it, like the Christmas show was just talked about. I'm talking with Sue Miller, and we want to come in and do some like behind the scenes footage, you know, so you can see the sets being built and maybe a little bit of the practices. But yeah, I just wanted to say this is an exciting time, and we are looking forward to, you know, the future and working with people and just progressing. This is a great growth opportunity. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any additional comments? Okay, seeing none, we are on to board member comments. I'm going to start with Mr. Cummings.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to start out by saying I think I enjoyed this meeting as much as you all did. I can't tell you how much I appreciate hearing everyone's feedback. I do realize one was maybe not very positive, but I do appreciate what you were saying, what your concern was. I'll count it as a positive feedback as well. I think it's something we certainly will look at. But I'm quite, I feel invigorated by this board. I think this is going to be a great 4 years. I'm looking forward to it. And I've enjoyed the interactions that I've had with these folks since the election started, frankly. And so anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Keep coming to the meetings. We enjoy your feedback. Over to you.
Okay.
Oh, and of course, happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Mr. Cummings. Next is going to be Mr. Linderman.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the community for electing me to this position. I'm excited for what's in store for this entire board in the future. Transparency, honesty, and dedication. I'm ready to get to work and roll up my sleeves. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Linderman. We're going to stay over there with Mr. Gear.
I would just like to say thank you to the community. I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I hope we see a lot of your smiling faces at the meetings going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gear. Ms. Fortner?
Kind of ditto. Thank you for voting for me. One of the big things that I will tell you is that when you see me out in the public and you're talking to me, that's what's important. I'm not here for an agenda. I'm here to help our community. What I want makes no difference. It's what's good for our community. And that's the reason that I ran for this job. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Ms. Fortner. Ms. Tate?
Not to sound like a broken record, but thank you to the community. This role, I think, is going to be such an opportunity for me to grow into. And all I ask is for patience. I have spent many hours already in the clerk's office getting things organized the way that I want them, starting to follow up on some of the things that are left over from the last board. and I'm up to the challenge. So I know Tom mentioned earlier that we have an open door policy, and that applies to me also. If you are feeling like you want to stop by Township Hall, poke your head in and say hi, and if you have any questions or concerns, I'd love to hear them. So.
Thank you, Ms. State. Ms. McGuire?
I didn't know I had to have something, geez.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you all for voting for me again. This is my 21st, going into my 22nd year of being treasurer for Oscoda Township. So that must mean I was 14 at the time or something like that. Just kidding. Zip it, Matt. But no, in all seriousness, thank you. It's a lot to learn. I've been sitting there ever since everybody's been sworn in on Wednesday, and I remember those days. Believe me, my kids were sleeping in the lobby on the couch out there till midnight some nights when I was trying to figure out some of the things in the treasurer's office. But I think that we have an amazing team, and the atmosphere has been super energetic, and it's gonna be an awesome 4 years. I know that for sure. We definitely have a lot going on, a lot of things that we need to review and look at and things, but I know these are the people that can take care of it. So, and I'm excited to work with them. I want you guys all to have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGuire. And I guess I'll go with my comments to kind of round it out. And I want to kind of echo everybody else's sentiments. This process for myself is, it's been deeply humbling. And I appreciate the support from the community. It was really overwhelming, the support we saw, not just for myself, but for the change candidates and just seeing change. And we understand that it's our responsibility to ensure that it's a positive change that we're instilling upon the community. As Heather was saying, it's going to take us time. You know, we were both, Heather and I both were in on the weekend, pitching in, trying to figure out how to address these things. There's a lot of work that we have in front of us. We know this. It isn't going to happen overnight. There are processes that we have to follow to make change. It's going to take the staff really supporting us. It's going to take the community. It's going to take everybody, including this board and all our volunteers. It's a lot of work in front of us to reestablish a culture. I can tell you going into town hall, it was pretty immediate, the change and the effect and the smiling faces. And we want to build upon that. And I just want to say again, it's been deeply humbling, and I appreciate all the support from the community. So with that being said, I make a motion to, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.